Welcome back to GlobeTrotting. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would certainly mean a lot as I push for 60,000. The A380F was a once-announced freighter aircraft that complemented Airbus's A380-800 and broader program in a commitment to what it felt like was a new era of travel. The variant conceived as a dedicated variant of the A380-800. Well, it was part of an ambitious plan on Airbus's part to dominate the long-haul passenger market and the freighter segment for what it felt it had lacked market share for quite a considerable period. Announced alongside the A380-800 in the early 2000s, the A380F was designed to carry up to 150 metric tons of cargo over 10,000 kilometers. Through this, it would look to compete with the established 747F series. At launch, the A380F did actually attract interest from high-profile customers, including FedEx and UPS, which are arguably among the two largest in the scene. Ultimately, they were orders, and they reflected some interest in this new A380 in the air cargo market, not just as a passenger variant. However, by the time the late 2000s arrived, well, all orders for the freighter variant had been canned and the broader program's hopes went out the window. There were, however, core reasons for this cancellation, but does this mean an A380F is ruled out in today's industry? Or could it be the next aircraft Airbus has, thanks to conversions rather than direct production? Well, why did they never launch the plane? That's very important to begin with, because this is a variant at the end of the day that did exist at one point. The decision not to proceed with the A380F was really driven by the challenges that Airbus was facing in delivering the A380-800 to its customers, which is considered the most essential part of the program. Despite launching some time ago, the passenger variant's delays remain hard to forget. Cost overruns did force Airbus to focus much more on this type at launch rather than the other. It needed its passenger variant to go out, and that really welcomed in all the focus from many different parties. In these cases, we often see priorities shift. For an aircraft such as the A380F, well, there was just greater emphasis on the model with more orders and a lot more invested, and a plane that Airbus had high hopes to help compete with Boeing and be a true offering in the ultra-high capacity market. From the business side, well, the cancellation of the A380F was also influenced by an unfavourable market condition. Even after there were some aircraft orders that did exist, the demand for ultra-large freighters was going to be limited. Look no further than the 747-8F. Yes, arguably this did save the 747-8 from being a complete embarrassment, but it was always going to look at capturing more of a niche market when it decided to launch. If you're throwing the A380F into the mix, well, that's going to overcomplicate a really small niche already. Despite modest sales compared to their predecessors, for example, the 747-400F and the 747-8F filled the gap for carriers that were requiring large freighters for some time, and Airbus not proceeding with their own initiative, well, it highlighted this. If the A380F had launched and the A380-800's EIS had been smoother, questions would have always arisen about whether this would actually been a long-term success for the program. While the A380F would have offered, yes, an appealing platform for freight operators, similar to what the passenger counterpart was offering, there were no doubt always going to be size and complexity issues that would have limited its broader adoption. There was much to consider for any operator, including infrastructure limitations and the need to fit the aircraft into airports, while not forgetting how do you go about loading the plane, how long does that take, and how quickly can you turn around your aircraft where there is money in the air rather than on the ground. With production of the A380 having ceased now in 2021, the idea of an Airbus-built A380F, well, it's effectively off the table. The facilities and supply chains needed to produce new A380s have been dismantled, making any real program revival unviable. Even if Airbus were to reconsider such a proposition, it would be returning to an idea that it canned in the 2000s. The return on investment would be very questionable, to say the least, and in a market that favours more efficient freighters over sheer size, its place wouldn't be there like maybe 20 years ago, if not longer. Today's industry has shifted towards more fuel-efficient freighters, such as the 777F and Airbus's upcoming dedicated A350F. These aircraft offer the versatility to serve a wide range of markets while also limiting costs. The ability to limit costs remains a stark contrast to what the A380F would have likely brought to many of the operators who may have been inclined to, say, purchase it. Therefore, the appeal for such a plane would remain at an all-time low. Could an A380-800, however, conversion happen at some point? As aircraft end their passenger lives, airlines have often sought to convert them for freighter use and extend their operational life. It's something we see time and time again, and often really fascinating to follow. While an Airbus-designed A380F is unlikely, several proposals, believe it or not, have already been made to convert existing passenger A380s into freighters. As mentioned, freighter conversions, or P2F programs, have become a popular way to extend the life of aging planes to meet demand for cargo capacity. However, unlike some of the already pre-existing conversions we have seen take place, the A380's immense size, while from a passenger capacity was certainly interesting to see, it does present logistical hurdles for cargo use. The double-decker design complicates cargo loading and unloading in comparison to, say, some other operators. You would have to see extensive modifications required to really make this viable, and something where it wouldn't take a colossal amount of time to unload and reload said plane. The high fuel consumption and maintenance costs also make this a plane that'd be less competitive than, say, smaller, more efficient freighters. They would still be able to fly the same distance. To date, though, no serious P2F program for the A380 has been proposed, despite at times a little bit of interest from some companies. Another requirement is also just to turn the vague interest in a company moving forward ahead with prospective conversions into something firm. They need to be willing to take on the plane for a conversion to even happen, and it's just never felt like happening as of yet. What is the future? Well, as the market evolves, the future of freighter aircraft certainly lies in more efficient and sustainable planes, which align with the targets that have been outlined already. Airbus has made significant strides in this direction by developing the A350F. Now, this is a yet-to-launch, but solely dedicated freighter based on the highly successful and efficient A350 passenger plane. Meanwhile, Boeing continues dominating the freighter market, and the 777-8F is expected to advance that further. This, alongside Airbus's A350F, will drive the future of large freight planes and complement other models that will develop over time. Do you personally feel that the launch not happening was maybe for the better? In 2025, the hope of this plane ever coming out as a dedicated freighter, it's next to zero. The only way is through a conversion of older units. And despite some ideas that have been floated around alongside the report here and there is really nothing that is fabricated into anything firm, and certainly not enough interest from core customers to take on a plane of this sheer scale. I'd love to hear your take down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It is certainly appreciated. Please take care. Do be safe, and I will see you in a couple of days for your latest industry analysis. Right back here on GlobeTrotting.